This is World News tonight from Dallas, Texas. At the top of the news, breaking his silence, we hear exclusively from the man who discovered the Boston bombing suspect hiding in his boat. The new twist in how the manhunt really ended. Pitfall, the stock market takes a dive because of a fake report on Twitter saying there were explosions at the White House. How could that happen? Into the Fire, our reporting right here in Texas for the first time. The stunning stories of those who raced to the fire knowing there could be an explosion, but fighting to save their town. And the miracle in the rubble, the dramatic scene, a baby born in the ruins of a devastating earthquake. An incredible first breath of air tonight.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News with Diane Sawyer, reporting tonight from Dallas, Texas.
Good evening to you tonight from Dallas, Texas. We have come here for an exclusive interview with former President George W. Bush and Mrs. Bush, and we'll bring it to you tomorrow night. But we want to turn first and right away to the latest on the Boston bombings. We are all going to hear from someone we have been waiting to meet, the Boston man who went out of his home to look at his boat and ended up ending a massive manhunt for a terror suspect. And how he did it is even more extraordinary than we knew. We turn to news anchor Ed Harding of our Boston affiliate WCVB with the exclusive interview tonight.
I know people say there was blood on the boat, and he saw blood and went in.
Not true.
Not true.
Dave Henneberry is the only one who knows the whole story, how the second suspect was discovered. But he says it's not the story we've all heard. He never saw any blood on the outside of his boat. It was a more subtle clue that something was wrong. Henneberry went out for air when Boston police said it was safe, and he noticed that the shrink wrap on his beloved boat was strangely out of place. So he went to the garage and grabbed a stepladder.
I got, I think, 3 steps up the ladder, and I rolled it up, and I can see through now the shrink wrap. I didn't expect to see anything. And I look in the boat over here on the floor, and I see blood. And
A lot of blood?
A good amount of blood.
Yeah.
Then my eyes went to the other side of the engine box. The engine box is in the middle of the... There was a body.
And at that moment, what did you do? What were you thinking at that moment?
Oh, my God.
He couldn't see suspect number 2's face, and he was glad he couldn't see his face.
Well, I know I took 3 steps up the ladder. I don't remember stepping down off the ladder.
He rushed into his home, called 911. Police swarmed the neighborhood. David and his wife were taken away. People are calling you a national hero.
The people I killed can get some from...
You know, in many ways, they do.
Then I'm at peace with it, you know.
An accidental hero with the thanks of a city. In Watertown, Massachusetts, I'm Ed Harding for ABC News.
And we thank Ed and Dave. And we want you to know that across the country tonight, Americans have said they want to contribute money to help Dave replace his beloved boat as a sign of gratitude. But he's asked us to tell you that he's so appreciative, but he'd like everybody instead to donate to the One Fund Boston to help the victims who were injured. He says, not a guy who lost a boat. And we've come inside for a moment here in Dallas to tell you more about the investigation speeding ahead at full tilt tonight. The suspect remains in a Boston hospital. His every word, every facial expression has been analyzed and scrutinized by a team of experts. And ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross tells us now what they're learning about his motivation, his inspiration.
With the injuries to his head, neck, legs, and hand healing, the hospital today upgraded the condition of Jahar Tsarnaev from serious to fair. So far, the only word he has spoken is a grunted no. At the same time, friends sought to upgrade his image. One posted this undated video on YouTube showing Jahar doing the robot dance with buddies on the wrestling team. Hardly the anti-American Islamic radical accused of following his brother in bombing the marathon.
It does appear that the elder brother was the driving force, that he was very angry at U.S. foreign policy.
The younger brother told the FBI that he and his brother were inspired by the anti-U.S. internet preaching of the radical cleric Anwar al-Awlaki.
We are destitute people.
Even though the American-born al-Qaeda figure was killed more than a year and a half ago, his words still have power. Here, condemning the U.S. actions in Iraq and Afghanistan, which the younger brother said became their motivation to attack.
We have chosen the path of war in order to defend ourselves from your oppression.
The elder brother Tamerlan had another favorite speaker, a Chechen rebel leader whose video Tamerlan posted online. Here the leader threatens death to anyone who helps the infidels. He was killed by the Russians last year. And it was on the internet, Jahar told FBI agents, that they learned how to make a bomb with a pressure cooker, all found in an al-Qaeda online magazine called Inspire.
This suggests that people appear to be getting smarter about building easily manufactured bombs and then targeting sites in the United States.
It is your statement. Repeat that.
In Russia today, the mother of the brothers Tsarnaev, who first encouraged her older son to follow Islam, was defiant in claiming their innocence.
My son just was Muslim. My son was Muslim, that's it.
In her first on-camera interview, Zubaydah Tsarnaev said her sons were being set up.
What happened is a terrible thing, but I know that my kids have nothing to do with this. I know it. I am mother.
The parents are talking about coming to Boston to see their surviving son and claim the body of their dead one. If the mother comes, she could face arrest for failing to show up in court in Boston last year on charges she shoplifted $1,600 worth of clothing at the Lord & Taylor department store there, Diane.
All right, Brian, thank you so much. And we have a final note from Boston tonight about other families grieving. Funerals were held today for two of the victims, 8-year-old Martin Richard, who waited for his dad at the finish line and died, and Sean Collier, the MIT police officer fatally shot days later. His fellow officers walked in march step as they left his funeral today. And next, we bring you up to date on an alleged terror plot we told you about last night. Police saying they foiled a plan to derail a train carrying Americans from New York to Canada, and the two men arrested appeared in separate courtrooms today. One of them denied the charges. The authorities said the men had help from al-Qaeda members in Iran, and today the Iranian government denied any involvement in the plot. And next, we have a new twist in the case of that letter laced with the deadly poison mailed to the president. We told you police had arrested Paul Kevin Curtis, an Elvis impersonator from Mississippi. Well, today, Curtis walked free. The charges against him dropped after authorities found no trace of ricin in his car or home, and his lawyers say he was framed. Now on to Wall Street, and if you were watching the markets today, you saw it. Just after 1 p.m., a massive nosedive, all because of one tweet from a trusted source, the Associated Press. It said there had been an explosion at the White House and President Obama was injured, but the tweet was false. The work of disruptive hackers, and ABC's new chief business and economics correspondent Rebecca Jarvis explains how it all unfolded.
It was the tweet that sent stocks plunging. At 1:07 p.m., breaking news from the Associated Press. Two explosions in the White House, and Barack Obama is injured.
Stocks higher this afternoon, recovering after a false report of a bombing at the White House.
Hack attack on an AP Twitter feed.
The news was false, a hacker's hoax. But before the AP or the president's press secretary could clear things up,
I can say that the president is fine. I was just with him.
There were 4 minutes of panic on Wall Street. A gain of 130 points on the Dow gone in an instant. $136 billion lost before seconds later a full recovery. But it wasn't humans driving stocks lower. Traders say many computer programs troll the internet for key phrases and react accordingly. In this case, they saw the AP's tweet and responded, sell, sell, sell.
Computers don't have emotions. Computers don't have intuition. Computers trade off of one variable and one variable only. Humans use their intuition. We can look, we can feel and touch. We knew pretty quickly that it was not a true headline.
Authorities are still questioning just how this could happen. The AP has suspended its Twitter account, but this is a cautionary tale that in this digital age, even an obvious hoax could cost Americans millions of dollars. Diane?
Thank you, Rebecca, and it's great to welcome you to ABC News. And now, a new warning about something you may do in your car, thinking it's safe. Instead of texting while driving, some people talk on hands-free devices and send messages while driving. Well, now, a new study out has advice for everyone on the road, and here's ABC's Paula Ferris.
We've shown how distracted driving can be, whether with your kids in the back seat or phone in hand. When I took my eyes off the highway for just over 2 seconds, I traveled half the length of a football field.
And while you might think using your phone's voice-to-text feature is making your ride safer, a new study out today suggests it is just as dangerous as manual texting.
In fact, this first-of-its-kind research, a small study of 45 drivers, claims that driver performance slows down when you text, whether it's manual or voice-to-text.
This report clearly shows that you're in just as much danger if you're using a voice-driven way to text as if you were sitting there in the driver's seat typing away with your thumbs.
You're 23 times more likely to get into a car crash while texting. And so the consumer is now driving automakers to install technology they assume makes the car safer into their vehicles, like voice-to-text.
If the consumer believes the technology in their vehicle makes them safer, that's on them. That's not on a message that they're hearing from the automaker.
I think they're getting mixed signals from the automakers. None of the automakers would say this is safe, go out and use it, but it is an implication.
As of today, the Department of Transportation is issuing new distracted driving guidelines to the automakers, encouraging them to limit any sort of electronic distraction that would take the driver's eyes off the road.
What is the solution for texting and driving?
Not doing it.
Paula Ferris, ABC News, New York.
And still ahead from Dallas, here on World News, that big explosion in a little town nearby. For the first time, the stunning stories of those trying to fight those flames.
Fertilizer plant just blew up. Okay, so we have a major catastrophe.
ABC World News with Diane Sawyer. Brought to you by Angie's List.
We are back with you now in front of the skyline of Dallas, Texas. But as you can imagine, in Dallas, all eyes for days now have been on a little town 77 miles south. It is the town of West, shattered by that massive explosion at a fertilizer plant where 200 people were injured, 14 people died. Among them, so many first responders, volunteer firefighters who knew it was dangerous, but rushed in to help. ABC's Steve Osunsami has been there from the very first night and spent the day with the people of West Texas again.
The volunteer first responders were everyday people racing to that burning fertilizer depot. Factory workers, salesmen, repairmen, heading straight into danger.
There's a big explosion and our house is just destroyed.
In these newly released calls for help,
My God, what has happened?
you can hear the panic.
Look, our house, our whole windows, everything, it sounded like a bomb.
Pat Grimm, a real estate agent by day, helped fight the fire that night. He says what most people don't know is that those brave volunteers knew the plant would blow, but stayed there, dousing the flames, buying them time to evacuate the nursing home across the street.
We were able to evacuate those people. There could have been 30, 40 lives lost because they didn't delay the fire.
For the first time, we're hearing from firefighters who were inside that terrible disaster. They say the explosion instantly tore apart 2 of their fire trucks, flattened homes nearby, and killed their friends on site.
My wife and my kids are keeping me together.
Firefighter Cody Dragoo was killed in the force of the blast. He worked at the fertilizer plant and organized the yearly barbecue where he and his brothers at the firehouse raised thousands of dollars for new equipment and new trucks.
He was the absolute grill master.
They also lost Morris Bridges, who fixed fire sprinklers for a living and loved his motorcycle. Kenneth Lucky Harris, Lucky with an E, who ran a home inspection business. And brothers Robert and Doug Snookhouse, both iron workers and fathers and husbands.
Doug had a saying, especially to his wife, when she would tell him to be careful when he was going on a fire call. He would always respond, "The good die young. The good die young." And if Doug was here, I'd tell him, indeed, the good do die young.
Today they started preparing for their first funeral. Joey Patowski was just 29 years old, the town secretary, a God-fearing man. They'll bury him tomorrow.
I think about Joey, I just picture his son's face, and I makes me think about my own children and, you know, what could have been.
Is the word brave big enough for the men who fell here? You know,
these guys are true heroes.
We are all so moved by their story, and Steve Osunsami is here now. Steve.
Diane, 70% of firefighters across the country are volunteers like the great men and women of WEWS who work with so little and have asked us to thank the country for all of the support and all of the prayers they've received.
And again, I know you've been there every step of the way. Good to see you, Steve. Thank you. And coming up next here, it is our Instant Index that will take you behind a famous picture, a mystery revealed. Our Instant Index tonight begins with a piece of history. We know a picture is worth 1,000 words, but what about the camera? We all remember the iconic picture, a sailor, a nurse, a kiss for a lifetime in Times Square, celebrating the end of World War II. Well, tonight, a mystery revealed about the camera and the cameraman behind the timeless shot. The camera was made in Germany. The photographer was Jewish, forced to flee Germany during the war. And look, there he is, his camera dangling by his side, and then his own embrace, his own version of that kiss. And also tonight, an incredible image and story of survival. They are calling him the miracle baby born amid the ruins in China after the devastating 7.0 earthquake. An army of doctors and volunteers coming together to bring the little boy into this world and their mother and child safe at last together. It is so great to have that ending. And coming up next here, Dr. Richard Besser on what you may not know about the medicine inside your medicine cabinet. Take our quiz. See if you know what's good for your health next. And finally tonight's time for some truth about our health, and it comes from our own trusted source, Dr. Richard Besser. He has a new book out today called Tell Me the Truth, Doctor, and it's published by Hyperion, a sister company of ABC. So tonight, Dr. Besser has a kind of quiz for us about our health and the medicine in our cabinets.
Absolutely, definitely.
I'm not sure.
I think I can. I don't know.
Lots of confusion out there. Let's clear it up. Starting with the medicine cabinet. Is it safe to use drugs after the expiration date? The truth. Over-the-counter drugs are good for years. Even the CDC stores drugs after their expiration date. For you, it means aspirin. Cold remedy pills, okay to keep. But liquid drugs and prescription drugs should get tossed. Keeping them is dangerous. More everyday medicine. If you get a cut, should you clean it with rubbing alcohol, water, or hydrogen peroxide?
I think you should use the alcohol.
I think water.
I'm not sure.
Rubbing alcohol.
The truth? Plain water. Hydrogen peroxide and rubbing alcohol can damage the wound. You just want to get the dirt and bacteria out of the cut. Your immune system can do the rest. 8 out of 10 Americans will have back pain in their life. So if your back hurts, is rest best? Do you just lie still? The truth. Bed rest isn't helpful. Get up and keep moving. Walk, gently stretch, take a pain reliever. If you don't feel better in 3 days, or if you have muscle weakness, call your doc. And finally, you're watching TV. Does sitting too close hurt your eyes?
I think so. You should not sit too close to the TV.
I do believe that was never proven.
I sat close to the TV when I was young, and I'm very nearsighted.
The truth. Sitting too close to the television can strain